Hello, guys, and welcome back to the podcast. When I grew up in Brooklyn, New York City in general are known for these famous black and white cookies. They're just, I don't want to say sugar cookie, they're a little bit more pillowy, but they are frosted with a half black, half white. Kind of looks like the yin yang symbol. And they're just super popular. They're delicious and they're very well known. And just like those cookies, black and white, I also subscribed to the idea that life was very black and white. And I just thought that's what it is. When you have boundaries, when you have beliefs, when you have things, everything's black and white. And while I do draw hard lines with things, and I do have black and white thinking in regards to some of the things I will not compromise in this world and that are really not in the gray with me. They're very, very clear. I do think that life does exist more in the gray and that life is more nuanced and multi-layered and complex, and that God totally understands that. And that does not mean letting go of your boundaries and your clear, decisive ideas on what you will and will not participate in, what you will and will not believe. But life is very fluid. And when you accept that you're constantly growing, that truth that you held years ago can just become more deep and more layered. And so that's the beauty of accepting that although we love to live in a world of absolutes, the all or nothing, right or wrong, success or failure, but real life really is not like that. It's rarely that simple. It's, like I said, layered, nuanced, and often contradictory. And the deeper truth is that two things can be true at once. When I began to truly internalize that, I felt more free. I felt lighter because it doesn't mean that I'm choosing to go against any of my true beliefs, but it's just having more grace for humanity and those around me and things that we experience. This episode is a reminder that peace doesn't come from choosing one truth over another. It comes from learning to hold both, and that there are times and spaces where we should, and it's absolutely normal. And it's actually good to also address that cognitive dissonance when we are having two truths that are opposing, because it will make us either conform our belief to our behavior or our behavior to our belief. And so that is a very important process in our character development as well. So the only thing I truly want black and white in this life are those cookies from Brooklyn. Okay, let's dive into a little bit deeper with this concept. When we are young, we are taught to see things in this black and white way. And it's just a thing we do as parents. We make sure that our kids know there are just some things you don't do just for their safety, right? But in adulthood, with real emotional maturity, we begin to understand that we can live in this gray area. That's where growth, that's where grace and really groundedness exist. Sometimes we resist that gray because it feels uncertain, but that gray is actually where the soul stretches. It's where we learn compassion, balance, and self-acceptance. I want to go through some quick ideas on how this concept demonstrates itself in our life or surfaces in our lives, because it can be shown in all layers and all ways. And I'm sure you probably have another 50 examples. But here are some that I thought about, and I want to list them out for you today because there are so many ways that two truths can be held at once and that you can find peace in that. One of these examples is you can love your life and you can still want more for yourself. Gratitude does not cancel ambition. You can love your life and you can still want more for it. And you shouldn't feel guilt because of that. A second one is you can be confident and still have moments of deep insecurity. Strength doesn't mean perfection. And oftentimes, I wrote a section in my book that we confuse confidence with self-worth. And that's an important distinction that we need to learn to make, because confidence is made through experience and choices and living out things on this planet in certain aspects of our lives. And we can be super confident in our career, but then super insecure, maybe in social settings at parties or something. So confidence doesn't mean perfection in all areas. And make sure that you're not confusing it with your self-worth, which is just your innate value that you are born with, and nothing in this planet or any experience on this earth can remove that value. So make sure you dive a little deeper in understanding the difference between confidence and self-worth if you feel like you are struggling with confidence. Okay, here's another one. You can forgive someone and you can choose to not reconcile. Boundaries protect the peace forgiveness created. Those two things can coexist. Here's another one. You can be healing and still have hard days. Setbacks don't mean you're back at square one. I had a whole podcast about this, so you can maybe I'll cite it at the end of this episode so you can refer to it. Another one is you can be proud of your body and still want to shape it differently. Acceptance and evolution can coexist. As a coach, as a nutrition coach and a fitness instructor for some years now, I've told my women that I've worked with, my clients, men and women, that you can love your body right now. You can accept your body right now, but you can still want more for it. You can still want to shape it differently, and you shouldn't feel guilt for that. And those two truths can coexist. It doesn't have to be one or the other. Here's another one. You can say yes to more and still do less. How do we do that? Especially now in these holidays, the holiday months that are coming, how can we say yes to more but still do less? Because sometimes saying yes to more life means saying no to more noise. You begin to say yes to the things that truly, truly matter, the ones that spark joy, the ones that fill, uplift, and the ones that you want to hold on to because they matter to your soul. So whether that's like giving more service, participating in activities with your family that just solidify those relationships, and letting go of the fluff, letting go of the things that are noise. And you know what those things are, the soul draining, energy sucking things that you're just saying yes to because you want to please everyone or you feel obligated. You learn to say no to the noise and yes to life. Here's another example. You can believe in divine timing and still have to show up and work and put in that effort and struggle through that effort, even though you are trusting in God's timing. He also wants you to work towards that. Faith isn't passive, it's active alignment. And here's the last one I'm going to share. You can love people deeply and still outgrow them. Expansion doesn't mean rejection. And I see this constantly with girlfriends that I have and people throughout my life. You can outgrow someone and respectively do that without it meaning that you don't love them and you don't appreciate them. That's part of life. When you can hold two truths at once, you stop fighting reality. You stop labeling yourself as inconsistent or hypocritical. You begin to see yourself as whole, as a human that's evolving. And that's where freedom lives, because life truly isn't about picking a side sometimes. It's about learning to stand in the center of what's real. That's where balance is born, when you can truly jump through these hoops in your mind, because it feels like that sometimes when you are accepting two truths at once, two sides of the coin as completely valid and worthy of your attention and acceptance in the moment. I want you to think about what one area in your life that you are trying to choose one truth when maybe both can coexist. Is there something you're resisting because it feels contradictory, but it might actually be complete? Write it down. Let the tension breathe. That's often where your next level of peace will reveal itself. I also wrote an article on cognitive dissonance, which I think it's an important concept to spend some time on. I believe there's probably a couple of my episodes as well that discuss this a little bit deeper. But basically, when you live in the gray, when you're struggling with something internally, and you can't receive peace from accepting those two truths, it's because your values are not aligning with your actions or your actions are not aligning with your values. And you have to decide, either switch what you're doing or switch the value or the principle that you are struggling with. So that's why it's very important to understand when you're experiencing cognitive dissonance and how you can work through that. That is also growth, understanding that little struggle. But oftentimes it doesn't have to be one or the other. You don't have to create any shift. You just have to hold both truths and sit with it and be okay with it and find growth through it. You are allowed to be a masterpiece and a work in progress. I always would say that to my clients. At the same time, you can exist in both states. You can both be soft and strong, certain and uncertain, at peace and still becoming. Two things can be true, and that truth will set you so free, my friends. I hope you found some value in this. Let me know what you think of this concept, and if you have any more examples to share on how two truths can exist at once, please send them over to me. Till next time, my friends, can't wait to talk to you again.